So he rose today. I'm on my knees and I'm praying that he gives me the words to share with you the truth. Now, in Canada, we've got a prime minister. He wrote this book. In this book, he says to stabilize temperature rise at any level, we must reach net zero, where the carbon emitted and that taken out of the atmosphere are equal. Net zero isn't a slogan, it's an imperative of climate physics. That's not true. And in this presentation, I will show you that. So, let's start. Thank you, Jesus. First of all, this is a chart of 600 million years of carbon. The information, you can verify it, is from Mauna Loa, Hawaii, October 2022. You can look this up, okay? Please verify everything I say. So, we peaked CO2. What was our peak and what is our average? 8,000 is our peak. What's our average and what's our current CO2? So let's start with the current CO2. Current CO2 in the earth, 420 parts per million. Okay? We're right here. This little dot like grid, that's where we are. Historically, this was CO2. So, just think about this for a second. Planes, trains, and automobiles were not here 600 million years ago. But CO2 was 20 times higher than it is right now. That's the first thing that people should be like, what's going on here? Okay, so peak 8,000 parts per million. Peak CO2. Before trains, before planes, before factories, any of that stuff. Average CO2 over 600 million years. What is it? 2,600 parts per million. Where are we today? 420. OSHA. At what level does OSHA say that it's toxic? What level is CO2 toxic at, according to OSHA? How many hours can you work at this level? OSHA. 5,000 parts per million. Humans can work here for 8 hours. Your government will allow you to work at 5,000 parts per million for 8 hours. Okay, so as you can see, this chart has changed a lot, okay? CO2 basically is controlled by the earth. It's not controlled by humans. Do we have an impact? Yeah, sure, but it's not the way that it's been presented. Clearly, because how could you hit these numbers without any of us contributing to the earth? Okay? So, now, let's talk about current CO2. All right? Especially here from just before the Industrial Revolution to present. Okay? Because people need to know the rate at which this stuff is increasing too, right? Because the fear is temperature, right? So, let's start. 1750, pre-industrial era of, CO2, humans producing it. What was it? 280 parts per million, right? That's the number right there. 1750, 280 parts per million. 1900, what is it? 296 parts per million. So from 1750 to 1900, we went from 280 to 296. Now, before we continue, I want people to tell me what this line is. Especially the people who voted for Mark Carney. What is this line? What is this line? This is what we call extinction. Okay? And it is 150 parts per million. We were at 280 parts per million pre-industrial revolution. Then we hit 300 in 1900. Okay? 150 parts per million equals nobody's here anymore. Like nobody, not you, not me, not the trees, nobody's here. So this is the thing that people should be scared of, okay? So 1900, 296 parts per million, okay? Now we go up. What about 2000? 2000, the year 2000, went up a little bit more, 396 parts per million, okay? 1900, we're at 296. Over here, we're at 280. 280 parts per million, 296 parts per million, 1900, 2000, and today we're at 420 parts per million. Okay? This is the year 2026. And people are like, oh my God, like CO2, we're closer to dying than causing any trouble, first of all. But let's continue, okay? Let's continue because again, Mark Carney said it is an imperative of climate physics, which is not true. So, physics has a formula, okay? Standard physics formula for CO2 radiative forcing. How much does CO2 affect temperature? This is the formula, okay? Verify it, look it up, check it. This is the formula to determine how much CO2 affects our temperature. Now, what's the problem with that right now? Well, 88% of the possible heating, all right, of the temperature that CO2 could impact has already happened. So 88% of the possible warming has already occurred. And each CO2 molecule that we increase beyond 420 has less, okay, adds progressively less temperature, adds progressively less impact, okay? So each CO2 molecule that you increase on Earth has less impact because there's a saturation point at which CO2 doesn't have an impact. And we're already reached 88% of that possible warming. So then people are like, okay, well, but by 2050, we need net zero, right? Well, no, we don't. But let's just play this game, okay? On average, CO2 has risen from 1900 to 2000. So in 100 years, it raised 100. Okay, so that would be 1 parts per million per year. It increased more in the 2000s, more CO2 was put in. They said it was between 2 to 3 times per year, okay? So let's just take 2.5 times, all right? Because that's the average. So 2.5 times our CO2. We are 2026. If we extrapolate that 2.5 all the way out with no changes in technology or anything, this is going to go to right here. Now this is 615 parts per million, and it would happen in 2100. Today we are in 2026. This would be in 2100, and we would reach 615 parts per million. Is that a dangerous level? No, it is not. And you're probably wondering, what's this green stuff up here? What's this green line up here? Yeah, they don't want you to know that either, do they? So, up here, that's where CO2 is ideal for mass production of food crops in a greenhouse. Because CO2, carbon, is plant food. So this up here, so this is the ideal. Actually, I want this in green. Ideal, okay? CO2 concentration for mass production of food, crops. I mean, you're talking like 40 to 100%, right? 40 to 100% increase in crop yield, and you also have lower turnover, as in like you have a shorter turn on your crops. So the takeaway from this is you are not helping the planet by taxing yourself into a net zero economy. Net zero, as you all know now, just equals zero future.